All right, this is the week 8 update check-in for the Artist's Way. And this week is about recovering a sense of strength. And this week tackles another major creative block, that is time. Like every other chapter, it's kind of just like digging into one theme or idea or one of the reasons that we might be creatively blocked. Often the actual theme on the actual start of the chapter and what she kind of is telling you you're tackling for the week, they don't really match up, or at least for me, I don't draw any parallels or connections. So every time it starts with like, you're recovering a sense of strength and this is what you're tackling this week, that never really seems to be the case. Like, it's not like I'm looking back during these updates and check-ins carrying that mentality or that theme through the week almost. It's kind of just almost like just a headline. Anyway, for me, it's more about going through the actual chapter and the thoughts and the philosophy of each part as opposed to the weekly theme. The first subheading here in the chapter is about survival, and it's kind of talking about stuff I was dealing with, or anyone that's doing the course might have been dealing with in the previous week 7. So it starts off by saying, one of the most difficult tasks an artist must face is a primal one: artistic survival. All artists must learn the art of surviving loss of hope, loss of face, loss of money, loss of self-belief. So it's kind of like being comfortable, not even being comfortable, but being aware that there is some loss involved in some capacity, kind of just being accepting and comfortable with that idea. And then ideally, if you can utilize it and embrace it for creative outflows, then like that's an even bigger benefit. You must learn that there is an art of surviving loss that's required. And I just wrote next to it that there's lots to gain from artistic feats or triumphs, but loss is required to balance it out. So it's kind of the highs and the lows. And then she goes on to say, as mental health experts are quick to point out, in order to move through loss and beyond it, we must acknowledge it and share it, because artistic losses are seldom openly acknowledged. And then I had like the light bulb moment of that's what I did in last week's check-in and last week's morning pages, working through the loss and acknowledging it and then sharing it. It's literally what I did in last week's video, in last week's check-in, in terms of being comfortable and acknowledging the loss of like the way that I thought music would play in my life as a creative outlet. So acknowledging that loss, sharing it. Yeah, it just felt good last week to get that out, even though it's kind of a new revelation, and then to see it kind of referenced in the following week. Again, it's giving me comfort knowing that I'm kind of on the right path. In addition to those points that are in the chapter, when we don't share the loss, they fester into more scars and more blocks. So we need to share. And then I just wrote, glad I did last week. And yeah, just there's another point further down that says the unmourned disappointment becomes the barrier that separates us from future dreams. So it's kind of this idea of, if you don't share it, it will turn into more scars and more blockages. And then that's going to prevent you from getting closer to your creative dreams and aspirations. So yeah, whole first page is basically about acknowledging loss will be involved, be open to it, be receptive to it, share it if possible, and that'll just heal wounds faster. The next little part goes on to talk about the ivory power. So it's kind of this idea of professionalism and corporate life and academia, and how that can stifle creatives because it's kind of two separate worlds. And she just says here, it is my experience as a visiting artist that many academics are themselves artistic beings who are deeply frustrated by their inability to create. So it might not even be their inability to create, it's just the like societal limitations that may be on them based on the chosen field that they're in. Death by specificity almost. And there's just a quote here that I've highlighted by Einstein that says, imagination is more important than knowledge. And there's kind of just like this gripe for 2 pages that I resonated with. I didn't really dig too deep into it, but it's about this idea that from her experience and from mine as well, that academia harbors a subtle discounting of creativity that kind of numbs the students and doesn't really value creativity in students. I know for me, I went to university, did science, and there's not a lot of creativity, at least the creativity that I'm interested in as part of that, for obvious reasons, because it's more of obviously a scientific field, but it's a field of academia. So there's like this separation where it's like creativity is kind of not shunned, but it's not held in high regard, perhaps. And yeah, it just says further down, it's seldom appreciated. It could be a reason why I have had a different worldview in regards to my place and the type of creativity that I enjoy and like producing. It's definitely changed since going to university, and it's not like it's drilled into you to not be creative. It's just, it feels like you kind of have to pick a route. You have to, you come to an intersection, you kind of have to choose one or the other. Not that you necessarily have to, but it just feels like a societal norm or pressure to pick one and not the other. But obviously you can do both. It's just a matter of where you want to split your interests and split your time. And then there's an interesting line here that I underlined that kind of follows on from that says, for an artist, to become overly cerebral is to become crippled. And that's basically how I feel. It's too scientific, too analytical, too mathematical, too productivity focused. It's too cerebral, and then you become crippled in just being able to relax and play. Hence why the morning pages and just doing poems and ideas and quotes and all sorts of random things and then going on the artist state. It's definitely opened up the possibilities of like what I can do, and just being able to tap into that more playful creative mode much easier, and just granting myself permission to do so. And then there's this really interesting part at the bottom here that I've seen a few times on social media in the last couple of weeks, where it's this idea that it's almost like audacity might be the most powerful attribute or skill set to have in terms of just getting through life in any endeavor. It's like having the audacity to do anything, having the courage to do anything, just believing that you can do something and then going after it. So she writes here, often audacity, not authentic talent, confers fame to an artist. The lack of audacity may cripple many artists far superior to those we publicly acclaim. So it's basically this idea of talent is not the only thing required to become like an artist or to become known for something. It's almost the audacity to try and put yourself out there that confers fame as well. So it's just interesting how you'd think it'd be like a meritocracy and it's all talent based, but there is a level of courageousness and audacity that's required to firstly overcome all these blocks, and then to create work that you're proud of, and then to put it out, and then not to let like audience capture or society or culture to tell you otherwise, and to stick to your guns. So it's like having audacity at every layer is important. So you need audacity when your talent is elementary or at a foundational level. Then you need courage to be consistent. And then with that consistency, you build competence. And then with that competence, you become talented at the thing. But to come back to the start, in order to get courage, we first need to identify and move through those scars. Yeah, it's kind of a multi-step process. It might not be that straightforward or that linear, but acknowledging scars, overcoming them, having audacity to get up and try, the courage to keep going, and then build a talent and build mastery, and then just to keep going from there. Hopefully not be burdened down with future scars. And she just makes a comparison about athletes and artists in terms of acknowledging when you're sore or injured and when to slow down and that sort of thing. And it's equally important for an artist or a creative. And then also kind of spinning these perceived losses or blocks into positives. She just says here, every loss must always be viewed as a potential gain. It's all about kind of framing perception. So looking for the upside. And that's kind of what I'm doing now with kind of ruling out music at this part of my life and then embracing the next thing. So yeah, closing a door and then looking for the next one that's open and then getting a foot in. And then it just talks about, just taking action once you've hit that wall where you've identified the loss. You can't kind of sit and wallow in it. You have to take action. And she says, when faced with a loss, immediately take one small action to support your artist, even if all you are doing is buying a bunch of tulips and a sketch pad. It's about acknowledging and promising your future worth investing in yourself or doing some small action to move you forward. I just made some notes about what I did personally. So the last section for the chapter really is about what she calls filling the form, and it's essentially just doing the next possible task or action instead of skipping ahead to something that's not as important or urgent. And yeah, if you've read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, it's kind of just the same idea of, well, you pretty much hear it from any creative person that's had success. It's just chipping away at things daily, writing for an hour a day or making a song a day and all these different things. It's just the small daily increments that get us to where we are. We can't wake up overnight thinking that we're going to be a success or have great art. We have to produce a bunch of average or poor or mediocre art before the better stuff is to come. So in that regard, it's kind of about trusting the process. And I just wrote, put the process on a pedestal and chip away at it daily before the other non-urgent things I didn't finish the sentence, but basically before the other non-urgent things start to creep in and take your focus and attention away. And you can kind of view this in like an Eisenhower matrix in terms of what's important and what's urgent. And I know for me, the thing that was probably going to move the needle the most in terms of my progress and growth and personal development and career and everything is just to sit down and do the writing that I want to do every day and do all those sort of things. But it's so easy to just get bogged down with the non-urgent and the non-important things. And if you looked at the Eisenhower matrix, it'd be in Q4, which is basically just delete the task, forget about it, or at least delegate it in some capacity. And it's so easy to just hide away from doing the work. Essentially just procrastinate by doing other tasks like watering the plants or vacuuming and things like this. So put the process on the pedestal and chip away at it daily. Okay, that's pretty much it for like the actual chapter itself. In terms of the morning pages, I did 6 days, which is pretty cool. There wasn't any gigantic revelations this week. It was a kind of a flat week. It was relatively non-eventful. I pulled a muscle in my neck and I was kind of laid up for half the week. So I didn't do a whole lot in terms of like breakthroughs or creativity, but obviously doing the morning pages day in, day out. I just made a note here. There's a lot of themes happened on multiple days where it was about, or my writing was about opportunity costs of doing one thing or the other, or not doing one thing or the other, and what that would look like in the future going forward, and basically just trying to envision the future if I take a different path. And I know that's kind of an impossible thing because you don't know what's going to come, like a month or two from now or 12 months from now, but just really thinking about what do I want, what makes sense, what do I want to keep doing, and yeah, just weighing up different opportunity costs of not doing some things, or at least realigning my time and my schedule towards certain things and away from other things. And I guess it kind of ties into the theme of the chapter, which is about loss and identifying loss. And yeah, there's another main post-it note here I have for the week was about more opportunity kind of considerations. Essentially, I want to do less things and kind of just being objective about things and more realistic about things. And yeah, just understanding that my time is limited and my energy and passion and enthusiasm is quite limited. I don't have 10 days in the week. I have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just like everyone else. A lot of those does go towards making money and paying the bills. So I'm conscious of the fact that there is a certain amount of time and passion and energy I can put towards things, and kind of just being objective and more realistic about the opportunity of each avenue. And maybe I might be becoming too cerebral, as she says in the chapter, and that could be a form of like blockage as well. But to be ignorant to those considerations would be a bit naive and silly. That's mostly it for the morning pages. So that was pretty cool. In terms of the art estate for the week, it was very, very last minute. So I record these on Monday afternoon, and I didn't do my art estate until Sunday evening, literally an hour and a half before bed last night. I just put it off all weekend. I didn't really pick what I wanted to do, and then I just spun the wheels all weekend about what thing to do, what thing not to do. And I didn't really want to repeat a previous art estate activity, because I feel like it'd be a bit of a cop-out as opposed to just trying something new and organic and playful. So yeah, I just ended up sitting down before bed for about an hour and a half last night, just with the iPad and the Apple Pencil, and just scribbled around, made some like little animations or illustrations rather, just for a bit of fun. And it took me out of the mindset of the upcoming week and things I'm dealing with and everything like that. So it was good to sort of be able to shut off quite quick. And it wasn't anything profound. It was essentially a form of like just doing a coloring book, just doing outlines and tracing things. But it was therapeutic, it was repetitive, it had my mind and hand coordinating together. And yeah, that was basically it. Pretty uneventful really, but it was worthwhile. Definitely left it way too late in the week. So that was the artist dates. All right, so moving on to the tasks for week 8. I needed a couple of them. This one is about color schemes, and it just asks you to pick a color and write a quick few sentences about it. So I picked blue, and I just wrote a quick few notes about like the ocean and why I like the color blue and the ocean, and not so much the color itself, but like what like themes and ideas and visuals conjure up when you think of blue. So I think of the ocean. It can be still, it can be turbulent, it can kind of be a range of different intensities. And then you have like the sky, which is just like slow moving and expansive and kind of, it's just always there. And then just simple things like cool and calm and clean, and that's like what I connect with the color blue essentially. Bit of a weird task. I haven't really thought about it in that regard before. I just thought I liked blue, but yeah, when you break it down into like what it kind of represents in the world, then it's an interesting task. And yeah, just some things. All of my favorite hats are blue. Prefer cool tones when I'm editing photos and videos. I usually drag it towards the blue as opposed to the yellow or the orange. I grew up across the road from the beach, so obviously that has a huge part of it. I'm an Aquarius, so again, water, blue. And just yeah, even walking around the house last night trying to see where is blue standing out to me. Even my bookshelf here, I have 50 or 60 books, and there's probably 6 of them are blue, and the blue color just stands out so much more than red or purple or orange. So yeah, they are the reasons why I like blue. This next task is about claiming your goal. So it says, you may find the following exercise difficult, allow yourself to do it anyway. And it's basically about just writing about your dreams. So it does like a half sentence that you just fill in later. So I'll just read the whole things out. It's number 1, in a perfect world, I would secretly love to be a documentarian of real life, capturing stories with meaning, clarity, and depth in whatever medium or field that fits. One goal that would signal that accomplishment would be to earn a living through work that I'm proud of, work that feels like mine, helps others in some way, and holds up over time. And I just wrote extra notes here. It's not about complete financial independence. It's just about supporting the task through the work. And then number 3 is, in a perfect world, in 5 years, I would be known for thoughtful, creative work that supports my life, but not defined by it. Number 4, in the current world, I can move closer this year by committing to a clear but flexible format for sharing stories that reflects my voice and can grow with me, not limit me. Number 5, this final point is more about like the actions you can take. So it says, this month I can ... and then I wrote, complete and publish 1 meaningful piece of creative work. This week I can choose the story I want to tell, shape a simple plan for it. Today I can revisit old notes or ideas to connect with an emotional thread that I can re-explore. So it's kind of just breaking it down of a big picture plan of what you want in the future, and then, okay, let's break it down, chunk it down into smaller bite-sized things down to the daily level to kind of give you hope that your dream is achievable, and like what you want is right there. It just takes the daily action, which again ties into the part about loss and taking action in the chapter. One of the tasks was about picking affirmations and then kind of journaling about them in the morning pages. Obviously I wrote them in the morning pages, so I'm not going to go into those, but I picked a few kind of affirmations off the list that she's provided. And then really the only other task that I did was following up from a few weeks ago. I was prompted to create a list of 20 things that I like to do. And so I just revisited that and it asked you to basically fill in more details about those tasks. So you can kind of work out what's doable, what's not doable, kind of seeing the pattern, I guess. I took all of the 20 things that I liked to do previously, which I wrote, I think it was in like week 3 or 4. Just things like going to the library, watching movies, taking photos, all these sorts of things. And basically you're asked to determine if it costs money, is it free, is it expensive? Do you do it alone or with somebody? Is there physical risk involved? Is it slow paced or fast paced? So I just broke all of them down. I'm not going to go into each specific interest or thing, but more so what was interesting to me was the common threads or the pattern. So 50% of the things that I entered here are all kind of brain or mindset based activities, like reading or just things that are more stimulating, I suppose, like looking at art and reading and that sort of thing. 50% of them I can do on my own because I'm an introverted person. I like to keep to myself. So that makes a lot of sense. 60% of them are free because I'm frugal as fuck, basically. And 80% of them are actually slow paced. So I'm actually quite interested in diving into that more because all of those things that I wrote them down prior to thinking about how these categories or filters would determine them. Like I wrote the 20 list of things weeks ago, not knowing that I would kind of be categorizing them. So to see them now and to have them categorized and kind of see the percentage breakdown, it aligns perfectly with my personality and my interests. So that was an interesting thing. And then, now I just figure out which ones I can go and do. Like I should probably go and do one of these for next week's artist date, something I can do on my own, something that's free, something that's slow paced, because those 3 elements make up the majority of things that I enjoy doing. So that's just an interesting kind of Venn diagram, I suppose. But that'll be it for week 8. I'll see you guys next week for the week 9 check-in.